Now we're recording? Are we recording?
It looks like it.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to E&I. I'm going to read our statement first. As a reminder, SCBWI has a policy of supporting diversity and inclusion. This is the place we set aside for KidLit creators and translators to meet, exchange ideas, and support one another in our efforts to bring great books to all children. Part of the reason we do this is so they can see themselves and others reflected in their lives. We specifically focus on the art, craft, and business of publishing and try to keep on topic so everyone gets the most value from our time together. If you have any questions about this, please see the anti-harassment policy posted on the SCBW website. Thank you. E&I is very excited to have local author Julia Pierre Hammond. She is a Black and Brazilian picture book author. She writes stories where people like herself, her siblings, and her students can feel seen and worthy. She is a member of the Black Creators and KidLit, Julia Hedlund's 12 by 12, SCBWI, and the National Science Teachers Association. Welcome, Julia.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
I'm gonna try not to please.
Okay. Okay. And it's awkward. And then Susan will be asking all the questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a particular hard stop for
No.
as far as time goes?
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll go and then yeah. Okay. So welcome. I'm glad you can make it. And the first question is a big one, but if you could please tell us about your journey to publication. We'd love to hear about it.
Okay, so I always wanted to be an author when I was younger, and I have like my 8th grade card says my dream job was to be an author, but I have 2 parents who are they just have like very serious viewpoints on jobs and maybe the reality of getting certain jobs. And so because they went to the University of Iowa, both of them, they thought that the only way I should become an author is if I went to the University of Iowa's very prestigious writing program. And so I applied and I did not get in. And that's okay, because I think it shows like a little bit of resilience to like keep trying something. But I ended up going and becoming a teacher, and I love teaching English. And I was super lucky to teach English language learners. So I felt like a huge part of my job was helping kids to fall in love with reading and then also to fall in love with their writing and to feel confident in their writing. And all of these things had also included my own, reading journey and my own writing journey. And we would do this author's chair. And one of the things that you learn as a teacher is you want to model things that you want your children to do in the classroom. And modeling reading is super important. And the data shows that can increase students' love for reading as well. And then modeling writing during like young authors time or
Authors.
well, these names sound so cute, but I swear, like, there's a lot of data behind, like, them being extremely good for kids as well. And so then modeling that is really important. And then when I would share my writing with my students, it was, of course, they're my own students, so they thought it was amazing. But then there came a part where they asked me if I had ever gone for my dream of becoming an author, and I had to be honest with them and say no. And so when I went on maternity leave with my first child, I decided to see if there was anything that I could possibly do to make that dream come true. And I wrote a few manuscripts and I had them looked at by another author in the publishing community. And he said that I should continue this dream, that he thought that they had potential. And so I continued and I queried, and I got a few, full requests, which is like a good sign to keep going. And then I got very lucky to have agents ask to do the call and to sign me. Yes. Yeah. And so it just kind of all the signs were pointing to like, this is a good idea. I should keep going on in this direction and see what happens. So I feel like if I were to talk to my students about it, it would just be like, to like work really hard on something and then see if doors start to open. And if they do, just keep pursuing it. And if I could talk to my high school self, I would just say like the University of Iowa was not the only option. Yeah. So I've technically taught every grade, because you get to do student teaching and you get to have experience in the grades that way. But I taught year long, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then high school. Yeah.
Like all of the secondaries.
Yeah, yes. And I love fifth and sixth grade. I think it's like magic. They are just starting to write really long pieces for the first time and getting to express like their own opinions, not necessarily the class's opinions.
Right.
And so it just feels so special to like nurture that. Yeah.
So cool. And then how long did it take you from,
No, it's fine, please.
how long did it take you from like starting querying to actually getting an agent?
So I think from the person who I got to work with to look at my first manuscripts was super helpful and said to not query for a while until things were edited to a very tight place. And so I would say it was when I started querying to when I got the first like question about calling was probably 6 months, which feels like a very short amount of time in hindsight, but at the time it felt, yes. Yeah.
We're both in the trenches.
Oh, yeah. The trenches.
Like a year and a half in the trenches.
Yes, I think also what I had going for me was COVID. There were people who were, at home, and then all of a sudden it felt like those pitch events during COVID where everyone was looking at them. And now it doesn't seem like that is happening with pitch events at all. So I feel like I also got very lucky with when I started to be in the trenches,
I also agree.
Yeah.
I was querying when Twitter was like crazy and awesome. And
Yes,
the book
yes.
community was huge and all the agents were on there. That's when I was querying.
Yes, and I remember like
Destroyed everything.
truly, absolutely. Like even back then when I was querying and doing this, like you could see who was liking your post. You
Yeah.
could see if like an editor was liking your post, and you can still see your own with that. But I just mean that like there was a little bit more like, okay, an editor's doing this or an agent is doing this, and now I can use this knowledge to go more in the direction of this manuscript.
Yeah.
And I think because there was that where other people could also see which agents and editors were liking like your stuff, then it almost had this other vibe on there where more people were excited and interested and like constantly on there.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like that's the case with a lot of the online platforms
You
right
could
now.
find people,
You
I
could
think,
find people
that were
Yeah.
interested. Like I can't tell you the number of agents where I haven't been able to find anything that they want anywhere
I
online.
agree.
And I've checked like 8 websites,
Yeah.
and the best I can get is anything middle grade. And I'm like, yeah, but really what?
Yes.
What
Yes.
specifically what? And it's
Yes.
so hard now. Like,
Yes, and also a lot of the people that I queried during that period, because now I have friends in my critique group who are also querying, and when we share notes on different agents, a lot of those agents that I queried, they're now only open to like author illustrator, which was
Yeah.
not the case. So I again just think it was like this super lucky time period that I got to do this in.
Yeah.
And I do feel like a lot of publishing is luck,
Yeah.
like time wise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what I keep hearing. It's both frustrating yet reassuring.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
How long did it take you from the time you got your agent until your first book was published?
Okay, so then this is also just very not helpful to myself. No, because so we did all the signing, and like there was a lot of onboarding so I'm with the cat agency, and there's onboarding that happened, and it's a really cool agency because there's a lot of like all agency Zoom calls that happen, and like Slacks, and just like there's a constant communication in some ways that's very exciting. So I was like in this kind of gray area, like watching videos and filling out forms, and so I think I officially signed with my agent. I really need to like have this written down, but I want to say like I officially signed with her, and then 2 months later we had all the onboarding done, and then went on submission with this book, Soulful Stratton, and then literally 2 months later we got an offer. But what's so crazy about that is I thought it was excruciating. Like I was like, oh my gosh, she's not going to want to represent me. It's been 2 months and there's nothing. And then we did get an offer extremely fast. And I had no idea that like, there's things that you can do when you have an offer. Like you can like wait and you can see. And I was just so like, okay, we have to say yes right away. Yes. Yeah. So I guess like I feel like with publishing, there's so many things too that you want to like go back and like hold the other person's hand and like kind of tell them like, okay, it's okay to take a breath and not everything has to be like done so quickly,
Sure.
But it was super exciting. And then I learned after that, because we didn't get our next book deal for a year and a half,
Yeah.
that it can take a really long time. And one of I was, I think, at like acquisitions for 6 months with the next book. So like that's a super, super long time to be waiting to hear if a team likes your work.
Yeah.
And myself was like, oh, they don't like it. They're saying no, but actually that wasn't the case at all. So
on their minds yet. but
yes.
it's on the list of, oh, let's look at all the different, and then they only have so much time, so they're only looking at like 10 at a time, and then the next week they're looking at the next 10, and you're like down at the bottom.
Yes. And again, it just goes back to timing of like, are you submitting something when it's like the luck is working out that it's what they need on their list, or like they have the bandwidth to look at it,
Right.
Yeah.
But so this one went very fast, and then the next one went very slow, and the one after that went extremely fast. So I
Interesting.
think it's been very helpful for me to like see how it can. I feel like I've experienced both so far.
Are you with different publishers?
Yes, so this one was for Free Spirit, and then the one that took a very long time ended up getting signed with HarperCollins, and then the one that went super fast is with Sourcebooks. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it just depends.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, just the getting to hear about how even once you get agented and are published, it varies from project to project is very fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. And I'm still learning so much about when you can be on submission,
sure.
like the whole revise and resubmit process, how that can go. And that can be a very long, drawn out thing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me that that can be true for picture books as well. And speaking of, the next question is asked about you to tell us about your book. As this is Black History Month, we're curious about whether any particular themes related to that come up in your work. And sorry, this is a lot, but you also have Brazilian heritage. So if you want to speak to that as well, we'd love to hear about any of that.
Okay, cool. So this is my first book, Soulful Struttin', and I'm very, very proud of this book. It's inspired by my history and my culture. My family's from New Orleans, and my dad specifically is from Louisiana. And growing up with just so much of that cultural background just was like ingrained in everything, from like the food that we ate to the music that we listened to what our family trips were. And I am just so proud that that all made its way into this first book. And I really feel like this book is kind of like the whole windows and mirrors thing, where you are giving people window into someone else's culture. And so I feel like this book kind of shows, like, even to the point where like that is like what my dad looked like growing up. And I did not even give, I didn't even give the illustrator a photo of him, and like that is him. But even to like some of the other more abstract things, like what it was like to grow up in a family that's really big, that always has messes everywhere, with like a mom who's cooking a lot to feed like 9 people in a family, but 7 kids. And I don't know, just I wanted to have a book that kind of had layers about all of those things, because I feel like when you're a person with a mixed background, you have just so many layers that are involved in how you are living and existing and interacting with other people. And that was like my dream for this book. And so I wanted to layer like my family's love for New Orleans, and the very real aspect of like growing up in a big family, learning to clean all together and cleaning up after like our own messes, and layer that with like my want and desire for children to love reading. So having like some of these things hidden in the text, like the snappy language or like the refrain. There's a refrain that happens throughout the book several times that's about toes tapping, knees knocking, shoulders swaying, and fingers flapping. And I wanted that refrain to happen because I think it helps kids like with memory when they're reading. But then I also wanted it to, again, like have the layer of being an homage to my culture and like being an homage to like Louis Armstrong and like the snappy ways that words are like shortened in jazz music as well, and like kind of have like a mimic of like scat as well, and just kind of trying to layer a lot while also trying to get a book published and like have a structure and an arc and like, you know, have it be readable.
Right.
I was able to read it and I was like,
Yeah.
it's very musical.
Thank
Like
you.
the rhythm of the lines and like the way that, yes, there is some scat in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I feel like she's trying to trying to emulate jazz.
Yes, I was definitely trying to do that, have a bouncy rhythm in the story. And like even when it's not directly in the text, like there's a moment where he's tapping on the counter, and I wanted the taps to like emulate take five, but like that's so specific, and probably people don't hear that when if they tap it out or if they do it with their kids. But I just wanted to have layers so that maybe it seeps into the reading experience and you feel like you're having a window into my childhood, and then for other kids they're having a mirror into it. And I really feel very proud and that I was able to do some of this. And so at our first book event, which was at Changing Hands bookstore, I had a mom come up to me and she was just like so sweet. And she had her daughter, and she said that her daughter was so excited to come and get the book signed because her hair looked the same as mine.
Aww.
And I just, that moment just felt so big to me. And I wanted to like wrap it up and like remember it forever, because I do feel like it's super important to see people doing careers who, you know, who look like you, and just like how you're not really sure what that will do, but maybe that will be an influence or just a tiny thing that changes how they view a career. Like, you know, again, going back to like my own idea of being an author was like, it's this very super competitive thing that the only way you can do is if you go to the University of Iowa. So, yeah. So I felt like that moment was very, very sweet, and like maybe that helps that girl to see what it could be like for her too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So I really love.
Sorry, that was a lot.
That's okay. It's funny because so my husband is from New Orleans.
Ooh.
And as soon as you mentioned like the rhythm, the music, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's for people who don't know, New Orleans is totally its own culture in the way that I'm not sure it's true of all American cities. It's just so embedded. It's really hard to describe to people who haven't been there and experienced it. And I just married in. You know? So growing up there, I know it's very bread and bone of the people who, you know, that's their home.
Yes.
And it never leaves them either.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you took all that and put it in your book, and that's fantastic. I love
Yes.
it.
And I feel like New Orleans has this joy that is like, if you go to visit,
Yep.
it is going to be shared with you, and it permeates everything, like you were saying. And I wanted a book to be very joyful and also to have like this inclusive nature in it, because I feel like if you go to New Orleans and you go and you dance in one of the second line parades, like you could go on Sunday in the afternoon and there's just a band playing in the street, and you are more than welcome to join. You probably will join because it just has this like irresistible sound and like, I don't know, vibe, and it's just so inclusive, and it's just a very beautiful thing. So I think for all those reasons, I wanted to have that be in this book and like have this be an homage to like my dad and my grandparents and like this wonderful gift of this culture, you know?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. So you sort of already answered my next question, which was going to be where do you get your ideas? And if you want to expand on that, I'd love that. But I also wanted to ask, do you plan to continue to write just picture books?
I would love to write other stories. I really want to write middle grade and chapter books just because I love that age so much. I think that's the part that scares me the most is that I love the age and I love teaching it and talking to kids like with it and pretending to be able to joke with them on the same level. And I would love to write something that they would find interesting. I just also feel like in my head I have so much pressure because I think about every student I've ever taught. And they're very sassy at that age and they tell you how it is and like, yes, yes, absolutely. So, yeah.
Maybe a little less forgiving than the average
Yeah.
fiction reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're so funny.
So funny and so
Love
deep
them.
too,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. And I think I like to write about things that I've experienced and my middle grade things. Like I love my experience teaching middle grade, but I think teaching in Arizona, some of the things that I've experienced as a teacher here are very, very traumatic and heartbreaking, just because of the reality of the things that our students deal with that are unfortunately back in the news and like, just absolutely like horrific things. And I sometimes just don't know if I feel like I would be able to be like qualified to write a middle grade about that and also do it justice because so sometimes I think I just get a little overwhelmed by all of those experiences with middle grade. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, what about, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. It's fine, go
No,
ahead.
I'm switching subjects.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yes, like I think people don't realize how much trauma kids at that age experience of all kinds. A lot of it is hidden. It's swept under the
Yes,
rug.
yes.
It happens outside and it's very hard. Like that's one of the themes of my own middle grade book is like the trauma that kids come from. And it's so hard to deal with it like sensitively in a way that's not gonna traumatize kids who read it
Yeah.
but like lets them know that this stuff goes on, you know, and somehow make a book that kids really want to read that is still fun and engaging and interesting, but like does touch on serious subjects, you know.
Yes.
It is hard.
Yes, and I think for too, I think you're so right about middle grade, like at that young age. They are dealing with really deep things that people don't always give them credit for dealing with. And I feel like especially for fifth graders, like you're dealing with a 10-year-old who's just starting to do long form writing. And then all of a sudden, like they might be dealing with some very traumatic things, like dealing with like parents who are getting deported or something. And you are having to then figure out how to talk with them about it. But also what I find really interesting is in my experience with my classes, I would ask them, we would do this activity where we'd be going on a long break. Anytime there would be a break, 3-day weekend, long break, I would just have like one assignment that was like, write me anything, tell me what you want me to know. And I would write back to them over the weekend. And every time those things would just show, kids saying things that are happening to them that are very emotional and very traumatic. And also then they would just be writing about other things that are going on in their life that are very typical of a 10-year-old. So I do think it's interesting, like they are balancing their normal day-to-day activities and then these kind of really big deal things that they're not exactly I don't know, diving deep into, I guess. Yeah, more like than you might see like an 8th grader would be like, okay, I'm gonna just only talk about this thing that's happening, Yeah.
I was gonna ask.
Sorry, we kind of like went to the side, but
your next picture books, are they inspired by your life as well?
Yes, so I love to write about my family. I have 7 siblings, and then that was crazy and insane. Yes. And one of them was like I have 6 like blood siblings, and then my mom took in a Brazilian foster child for a while. So I also that's my 7th sibling, but 6 blood siblings. And so altogether growing up in that family was pretty wild. It was just like the Cheaper by the Dozen movies where there's like pasta being thrown and someone getting in a fight. But it was also so beautiful. And I like to write about that. So my next book is called Mort the Mediocre, and it's about an ogre who's bad at his job. And it's definitely inspired by my 5 brothers because I was like, this girl who was bad at doing all these boy activities. So they're the ogres. I am also an ogre in this story, but yeah.
Superior order.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And then the one after that is called Happy Noon Year, and that's also inspired by my family. And it's about a girl who can't stay up till midnight, so she throws a party at noon to celebrate New Year's. And yeah, and it's really fun because she gets to bring in her family's New Year's Eve brunch early to celebrate the party with. And that's definitely, again, an homage to my New Orleans family and specifically to my aunt, who was this huge party thrower. She would make this very amazing brunch to celebrate and bring luck to the new year for all of us. And she has been to a bunch of my book events, but unfortunately she passed away 2 months ago. And so I don't know, I just feel like in the way that like this book is about my dad, but then has like this heart that is my grandma who is no longer with us. I feel like this, the Happy New Year has the heart of my aunt through it. Or like my love for her through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a lovely way to pay to her.
Yeah.
Well, that answered my next question, which was going to be who is your inspiration? So I'll jump ahead to what would you like to inspire in others?
Oh, wow.
Take your time.
I think the thing that I would want to inspire the most, that I feel like is maybe like my Brazilian side coming out, is just to be very authentic always, like to genuinely be yourself, even if it's, maybe you wanted to be something else that day, or you wish you came across a little bit more like this, just being honoring yourself, because yourself has all these amazing roots and these like layers of the culture that you come from. And it is a beautiful thing, even if on certain days you are like having some insecurities. So I guess I would just like to inspire people to be their authentic self, because even like mediocre, when I was younger, I mixed up my words a lot, to the point where my parents were like a little worried that I had dyslexic, or I was dyslexic. And so I think like maybe at the time I didn't like that, and I didn't like how I would sometimes still, even when I got older, like mix up words a little bit and be a little embarrassed about that. But then I would have never thought of mediocre if I didn't play around like that a little, or let my brain do that,
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just writing from an authentic place, and then just being comfortable brainstorming from an authentic place too, because I think sometimes brainstorming can be really scary, like when you're looking at a blank page or you're not sure about jumping into a different medium, or like trying a different age range. So like when you're sitting there and looking at the blank page, like really digging down and being okay with something being like as true to you as possible, even if it's not something that you like when you read it later,
Yeah. Happens a lot.
Yeah. But you can always fix.
Yeah.
You can always fix something that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that's where some really amazing gems can come, like editing that later. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm glad you spoke of some of the challenges you felt that you faced. I wanted to ask though specifically if you've had any challenges writing and publishing because you're Black and Brazilian American, and if so, how did you overcome them?
I think that when I was first starting, I was a little bit worried that maybe the only thing that publishing would want like from me is just stories that are about my culture. And not that I don't want to write those. I do, and I think that is really amazing, but I also feel like someone who grew up in a big family where like Saturday Night Live was always on the TV, and like we were allowed to watch these comedy shows because our older siblings were watching them, not necessarily because they were appropriate. I think maybe because the parents were not paying attention to what the kids were doing. But I just do feel like there's this side of me that really loves comedy and wants to write in that way too. And I was worried that like if I presented a story that was only comedy, that wouldn't be accepted. And that's why I'm so, so proud to have Mediocre, and my editor, Luana Hori at HarperCollins, is just so supportive and so cool. And we even talked about this topic exactly. And I just felt very seen with that. And so but that was honestly like one of the things that I was concerned about, just that maybe I wouldn't also get to be seen that way.
It's interesting you bring that up because we've had one other, I think it's just one other picture book author. Brittany Pomalis. And she also mentioned being afraid to show her comedic side because she was a minority, or maybe that wasn't, I'm not sure how to put it. Do you remember?
It's like, it's almost like, will publishers buy stories that are just a diverse person being in a world, but not necessarily being diverse in the world? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I think it's that. I think it's like,
yeah.
Are they only looking for stories about the culture?
Right.
Or are they also going to accept stories that are just about a diverse kid existing in the world? Not necessarily doing a diverse cultural thing.
Kind of like that, like, what was that show? We were gonna watch
American
Fiction.
Oh,
like
and he's from Arizona, and he's mixed race. He's black and white, and he's from Tucson. And he also felt like he didn't know if he was qualified to write it, and I feel like there's so many layers to even that being brought up right now. Yes, it's really good, but
the whole question of like, how do you do diverse is so fraught sometimes. Like everyone's like, nobody wants a book that's full of just white characters, right? But like when I'm writing it, like there's so much pressure to get it right and perfect, and if you don't, well then you've done a horrible job. And you know, and it's like you want to include diverse characters. I have a lot of family who are like, my family's like intermarried, you know, so I have cousins who are half Hispanic or half black, and so it's like I feel like I grew up with that, and I know these people, and they just feel like family to me. But it's like, how do you write that like without like offending somebody, or you know, like somebody feels like you've got it wrong, and it's like, but I don't think there is one right way to be of a specific culture or race or religion or ethnicity. Like they're all different too. Like you know, like, so
and also and then there is like a lot of pressure too, I feel like, just because like going back to like you want to write from an authentic place, and then like I bring my teacher background to things. So, and I loved data when I was a teacher and when I was in grad school, and I feel like there's so much research about when kids have books that feature people that look like them or their culture, they actually can perform better in school and be more engaged. Yes, it's actually so cool. It's like it has, you know, it's super, super important. And so I feel like we're at this very interesting time in publishing where like there is a push for more. And then I think we're all just asking like, what does that look like, you know? And what are like the multitudes that can look like as well? Because I'm writing a chapter book and it has characters who are Black and Brazilian, but that's not the conflict. So like, I'm curious to see how that will do, you know, on sub, because the conflict is completely different. It's just part of the background, you know?
And I feel too, if you only focus on the culture, that flattens your story. Because then they just become cardboard. And that can in some ways be even worse or harmful even.
And again, it goes back to American Fiction. We should all watch that.
We can rescreen if we can
So good.
I would be okay with it.
Me too.
It was amazing.
It was awesome.
So we sort of dipped our toe into this with Mandy bringing it up, but what resources or techniques do you use when writing about diverse characters other than your own specific cultures?
Like, okay, can you explain it a different way?
Sure. So for example, do you do any research into other heritage or cultures, or has this not come up for you at all?
Like if you're writing a character who's
not of your own heritage,
who's not Black or Brazilian.
Okay, that has not, I guess that has not made its way in my writing yet, just because this one is like a Black story from New Orleans, and then the next one's just, you know, a fiction story about ogres, and then the other one is just again more New Orleans based. So I guess and then in my other writing, I don't feel like I've had to
Is that something
touch
you
on
would
that
want
yet.
to? Like, would you want to write like a book with like several diverse characters of like different backgrounds?
I think I feel like there is a part of me that wants to write about my experiences as like a teacher with fifth grade, and just like I said, like the stories that I dealt with in fifth and sixth grade, specifically like regarding immigration, just since that was a very big thing here. And then I guess and because I was teaching the English language classes, like that was just something that was like a through line, I guess, for those classes. But I don't know. I don't know if I would feel comfortable with it as well, just because I want things to come from an authentic place. So
Sure.
I guess it would just depend on like the point of view that the whole thing was taking place on. And then if I had to do research like that, I guess I would just have to go directly to the people that I am even like writing about, you know? So I don't know, though. I've never had to deal with that. That's a really good question, and I don't feel like I know how to answer it well.
Picture
Sorry.
books are smaller. They're less likely to have like
Yeah.
huge cast of
Yeah.
characters. We all write like for older audiences, so I think it comes up more.
Yeah.
Like I can see how you're not going to fit 28 characters in a picture book.
Yeah.
But like,
But I think it was interesting when we did speak to, going back to Brittany Pomalis, I believe she brought up language, or was language is one of the things, because different Spanish words can have different meanings and different dialects, and so that was sort of the way she approached it in a picture book.
So she would write,
Yeah.
if she was using a Spanish word, she would make sure like the Colombian or the Colombian meaning of that word, or a Puerto Rican meaning of that word, or a Spanish meaning from Spain. Like if it wasn't offensive, because sometimes it can be, there can be slang.
Yes.
And it could be the same word, but it's the slang.
Yeah,
And
that's really
so-
smart.
Yeah, and so she had what you might consider sensitivity readers for that.
Yes,
sort of thing,
yes.
People who speak other Spanish dialects. So
Yeah.
that was really interesting, but
I think sensitivity readers
oh yeah?
would be a great idea
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just haven't had to even think about this. I'm so sorry.
No, that takes off another.
But
question.
that's right. Like sensitivity readers, like I think as many people in the room that you could get involved that are from that culture would be the smartest thing I think that you would, and most respectful thing you could do.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So going back to being a picture book author specifically, are there any techniques or ways that you take to ensure that the illustrations in your books are diverse? Do you have any say in that? Or
So luckily, all of the houses that I've worked with so far, they ask like, who would you like to see on the projects? And then I've gotten to go online and then make like this little like Canva square of author or illustrators that I would love to work with. And so for this book, and then for my Happy New Year book, it was so exciting because I got to not only see like, oh, I get to pick other Black illustrators for this project, but then I also got to see like their past work and see like how diverse their portfolio is.
Very
And so I guess that's how I got to like to ensure that.
Did you have to give any direction with
No.
the illustrations? So they just took it.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
did they ask you questions?
No, I think that for both books, like the writing kind of allows there to be, you know, like room to play for the illustrators. And then I don't think there's anything where it needs to look a certain way in this book or in Happy New Year. So it's just, I think like me trusting that the illustrator, because we have similar backgrounds, can like play, I think was just a very healthy, good way to go about it. But I feel like I could only have that like trust because of like her diverse portfolio and like her own culture, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So cool.
But I haven't had to deal with like
Do you
that.
include illustrator notes when you write your manuscripts?
I try to do as few illustrator notes as possible because that seems like what the market wants. And then also now I like to illustrate on the side, and even from that perspective, I can see why it is not very helpful sometimes to have illustration notes
Okay.
because you just want to see where you would go with something.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're just letting the illustrator have their creative freedom.
Yes, I think the only times where it's really helpful to have, in my personal opinion, to
Yeah.
have illustrator notes is when you're doing like dramatic irony in a picture book, because then you like need the note to know what the joke is, but otherwise I feel like it's not very helpful.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So then the illustrator's in on the joke.
Yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
I can see it's kind of like the sarcasm tag that
Yes,
people will
yes.
use online, that's
Yes.
the version of that. Very, very nice. So, okay, switching to a little bit more personal, how do you balance writing with other challenges in your life? For example, if you have a full-time job as a parent, etc.
I think balancing writing is so hard, but one of the things that's been helpful is The Artist's Way, which is that book that is recommended for people in creative jobs. It's also recommended even if you're not in a creative job, but one of the things that you do is you wake up and you journal. And I found, because I have young kids, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and it's really hard to, when you first wake up, do the artist way, because sometimes like someone's calling you at 6 in the morning and need something. And so instead I just try to do the artist way when I have time, and I always use timers. I think that's extremely helpful, because I learned from another writer that if you just put a timer for 10 minutes, you can get something done, and most likely you'll start getting in the groove and want to keep writing. And even if you don't want to keep writing, you at least did 10 minutes, and you can kind of like put that in for the muscle of writing. So I always use a timer. I like to have patterns. I think I like to have patterns in my writing. Like I like to use things over and over again, like refrains or like puns or like double entendres. And I like to just kind of like have this pattern going, but I also like to do a pattern in even like my work setup. So like I have the exact same pencil or pen and notebook, and like I light the same candle, and just those things just help me feel like, okay, we're starting the ritual of
It's
writing.
like a mental.
Yeah, we put the timer on and this is what we're doing. And like, because I've had good writing come out of that, it just feels like you're setting yourself up for something good, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that would be just my best piece of advice. And then also to give yourself deadlines, like having critique groups are really helpful, because sometimes the critique group is like, we meet every this day, or you're gonna have something due that you're sharing with everyone on this day. And I found that to be so helpful, because sometimes you don't want to write the draft or fix the draft or show your art, but then if you have that date coming, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to do it.
And then most of the time you're not going to want it to look bad. So you're going to spend so many hours making it look good. Yeah.
Because you don't want to bring something back.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, real accountability. Someone who's
Yes. Yeah. And same with like the classes with editors and with agents. Like even if you literally don't have any writing, signing up for them, because it's going to force you to have that.
Yeah, actually, Karen had mentioned to me that you are way on top of that. I know she wanted in particular to ask me about.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
this is how many classes she's done in 2025.
Yeah, I like to take classes, and as I'm a teacher, so I like to be like very dorky about showing my growth, and I like to track it and mark things up, because that's what you do in a classroom with your students, so that they can say that they have grown. It's so important, like growth mindset all the time. And so I like to do that for myself. And I think it's very important, because in publishing, you're not going to hear from agents or editors for very long stretches of time. And you have to fill that time with like things that are boosting your own confidence and your own like support system. And it can't always come from exterior sources like a critique group or an editor or a full request or an acquisitions like notification email. So like I feel like doing this helps me to be like, I'm doing good things for myself and my writing, and I'm helping myself and my writing to progress, even if there are no other signs that that's happening, you know?
Yeah. No,
Where
that
do you
makes
take
sense.
these So I'm a huge fan, first and foremost, of free things. So I love YouTube. I love YouTube. There are so many gems on YouTube from agents, especially, and editors, like especially from when they were new, and like they were not like the famous agents and editors that people are always like clamoring after. They have stuff on YouTube. So I like to do that. And a lot of the times you can feel so good about yourself because it's like 15 or 30 minutes of just listening. And there's a lot of free, really good sessions on podcasts, again, from agents and editors. Like you can just go on like Apple Podcasts and just type in an agent's name or an editor's name. And sometimes something will come up and it's like you're finding out things about their wish list and things that you might not even see online. But then I also love, like, let's say now you want to pay for something. I like SCBWI, but you have to go into the virtual classes, Inked Voices, virtual classes as well. 12 by 12 because they have the monthly sessions that you can listen into.
What's 12 by 12?
12 by 12 is with Julie Hedlund, and it's her group where you're writing one picture book a month and you get support from other writers. And then there are videos from agents or other authors about the market and writing techniques. And I like highlights as well because sometimes they have really cool online classes. And then I think that's it. Okay. And then, yeah, that's it. But YouTube and the podcast, very helpful.
I can add some.
Okay, cool.
The writing. Oh, shoot. It's on my thing. It's like the writing, not the writing.
Writing Barn.
Writing Barn.
Okay.
Writing Barn is one of them. And then I want to say it's like the Writing Guild.
Oh.
Or maybe Authors Guild.
Authors Guild, yeah.
One of those two. But you can sign up for their newsletter and then they advertise paid classes, but they also advertise free.
Okay.
So then anybody can take the free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also I'm a big fan of going into Google and literally typing in like how to write picture books that are funny and like seeing what comes up and just going there, like I will Google anything.
Yes. Excellent. And I don't know if I told you, but we send out an email. I send out a follow-up email after every author we interview. And
cool.
See you on it. And,
okay.
I can add these resources too for other people who maybe miss.
Yes.
Etc.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, are we running more?
Yeah, I think we're lower.
Yeah. Okay.
I should find out.
Okay. So I actually only had two more questions, and I feel like you already answered at the very top of our time about advice given to authors who are starting out. So I'll just ask last, what's your current project and what's next for you? And you've touched on this a little bit, but do you have release dates or anything, anywhere we can follow you? Maybe if you don't have that.
Okay, cool. So I am on Instagram, Julia Pierre Hammond, and I have a website, Julia Hammond Creates. And I have my next book, Happy New Year, comes out November 2026. I don't have like the cover to share, but it's with Sourcebooks, and Sourcebooks has been a dream to work with. Truly the coolest, so fun. I'm obsessed with my editor, Jenny. So I feel like I cannot say enough good things about Sourcebooks. So that's coming out. And then Mediocre is summer 2027. So I'm very, very, very excited about that. And I'm working on my art, so I'd love to I don't know, plug that, just that my portfolio's online. And I guess like the last thing that I would want to just touch on is I know that it's a very difficult time now because it is a different landscape than when I was querying, and things just are moving a lot slower than they were back then. And it just I like to take classes and I like to listen to people think and talk. And I also like to notice patterns, as I've said. And I have noticed so many of these classes, people talking about how the industry is very slow right now. The industry is going through changes right now. The industry is having to tighten up their list right now. And so I know it is a really hard time to be trying to do your dream in this landscape, but if I had to start from scratch, I would be like really going on wherever there is a time where you can have one-on-one FaceTime with an agent or an editor, going and taking that opportunity. And I'm someone who likes to do the cheapest option. So there are different platforms that have like, an editor or agent critique add-on for $50, which is still a lot of money, but 50 to 75 is like the cheapest I've ever found it. And I do think like those platforms are the ones, and I'll email you one that I didn't get to mention that has really good pricing. But in this industry that is so hard to break into, I think the best thing that you could possibly do now that Twitter does not exist anymore with those pitch ways to get in front of people's faces, like the one-on-ones are the most important thing I think you could do, because I've had 2 projects that have gone to acquisitions like through the back door, without my agent sending the project, from these one-on-ones, because it's very important for like an editor to talk to you and like you to talk to them and see if there's like, I don't know, I just think it's important to connect, like in today's day and age where everything is online and things just can feel very distant.
It's not personal.
It's really important to connect in these one-on-ones. And I think that that can be the back door and maybe like the most important door right now in publishing, since we are struggling to get people to look at our work online through the pitch parties or even on submission. So that's just what I would say if I had to be like starting from scratch. Yeah.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see a message on the chat. Joyce, can you type in your email and then I'll send it to Susan, who can send it to Julia?
Yeah, and I think that also the last point you made, thank you for sharing, circles back to there's what you were saying earlier about not getting into the University of Iowa.
Yes, absolutely. There is more than one way, and traditional querying is totally a way that can work and does work for people. But it is just very helpful to also get to look into the eyes of the person reading your work and for them to give you their opinion that is not like a written opinion. Sometimes more things can be said, more nuance can be said in those like one-on-one Zooms that I think are just very important.
Yeah.
So I would fight for those if you see them online, like setting your timer and like getting them, because they tend to for some reason go out in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, before we sign off, 2 things. If there are any quick questions, and before that, did you want to get a picture?
Oh my gosh, yes,
if you don't mind.
No, of course. Okay, so now are we done with this part?
Yes.
Okay. This has been like, I've been like, do I look here? Where do I look?
Do a picture. Should I do it this way? Should I do it this way?
Joyce, do you want to be?
Joyce, do you want to be on the picture?
You don't have to.
I'm gonna turn.
Okay, what if like,
No, I hid my my
Yeah,
view.
I'll go over there.
Oh,
okay, and then
Oh,
we'll
Thank
take
you so much.
Oh, thanks, Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce.
Bye, Joyce.
Take care.
Talk soon. Bye.
Table, Karen?
I
Is
guess
that what
so.
you're thinking?
Yeah. Oh, she just went off.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna stop. Stop recording.